I pulled off $695,000 in sales in just one single month with Amazon FBA, and no, it was not just luck. In this video, I'm going to break down the 5 key things that I focused on that took me out of my plateau to making life-changing money as an Amazon seller so that you don't have to stay stuck, confused, or overwhelmed trying to figure everything out on your own. And by the end, you'll have a clear game plan to finally start winning on Amazon, whether you're a complete beginner focused on product sourcing or you're an experienced seller looking to scale your store. So let's go ahead and just get started. So first things first, education is the primary thing that I really dove into head first to unlock all the strategies that I actually used to sell that nearly $700,000 in a single month. The unfortunate thing is that not all information is created equal. Obviously, you're watching a YouTube video. This is completely free. What do you know about the quality of this information, right? I've achieved some awesome results, but anyone can post a YouTube video. And so you don't really know the person talking. Hopefully you've kind of vetted them and you go to their different socials and they actually have results that they can show. But is the information that they're putting out actually accurate? Is it the best quality information? And so it's tough to filter through that. And so it's best to get someone that you trust within the ecosystem to kind of point you in the right direction and help you filter through the noise. So that's where these next 3 come into play. I purchased multiple paid groups. So these range anywhere from, let's say, $20 to $100 on a monthly basis. And even in those groups, you'll get a lot of good information. You'll unlock, different key terms, different strategies, but no one really takes ownership over your success. And just because you pay for any sort of mentorship, any sort of education, doesn't entitle you to success, but it does make it much more likely if you have someone that you've paid a substantial amount of money to take ownership over your success, and it just increases your chances. And a wholesale one-on-one mentorship. Amazon arbitrage is basically you go to retail stores, either online or in person, and you purchase products to then resell on Amazon. So it's a very simple business model, and that's all I'm doing to make all this money. And that really helped me delve into different sourcing methods to really scale my store. And once I got into wholesale, that's when I really saw the huge explosion. I believe I purchased the wholesale course in April of 2023, and then later in 2023, that's when I had the 700K month. And you could just see on the growth chart of my sales how I just exploded in sales after getting into wholesale. But it took a few months, right? I didn't just buy this wholesale course and immediately start having tremendous success. I had to learn the stuff, I had to implement the strategies, and then through the implementation is how I saw that tremendous growth. I want to give a quick anecdote. Before I purchased the first mentorship that I did, the Amazon arbitrage mentorship, where you just buy stuff for cheap at retail stores and you sell it on Amazon, I tried to do it on my own. I tried to just use the free resources on YouTube. I tried to just use the cheaper kind of monthly paid groups as my educational sources. And I ended up making some pretty costly mistakes. So I created this one shipment. I'm not going to get too much into it. Basically, I made mistakes. I didn't know everything. The platform was clunky. I didn't really understand all the terminology and what I was doing. I lost $3,000. Pretty damn quick. I made a mistake and something got lost in Amazon's warehouse out of $3,000. That was early 2022. And so after that, I ended up quitting for 8 months. And during that 8 months, if I had, stuck through it, if I had gone about it in a smarter way, I would have missed all of that pain. I wouldn't have lost that money, and I would have gotten to the end result, the place that I wanted to be, making consistent sales, making consistent profit with the Amazon business model much, much quicker. And so investing in education, both the time and the monetary aspect, I think is very important. And anything you invest, I think within this space and within most spaces, if you really take ownership over your results and over your business, you will have success. And I think that just helps you. Making that investment helps you to justify for yourself the effort that you're putting out there. I just paid $3,000. I have to do this. I just paid $1,000. I have to make this work. And so that's why I think on top of all the information that you gain, on top of someone guiding you through every step of the process, I think that you taking ownership over your result after you outlay a significant amount of money is one aspect that is sort of intangible in investing in coaching or mentorships that not a lot of people talk about, but has really helped me be successful in the Amazon business model. And then when picking a mentor, you don't want to just kind of spray and pray, right? You want to use your gut. If you watch someone's video, you consume someone's content, and you say, okay, this person's cool, but why do they keep shoving a Rolex in my face? Like, I don't care about the Rolex. I want to learn about what they're actually doing. And so you want to be cognizant of the fact that some people make significantly more money from selling information than they do from doing the actual business model. And that's not a problem per se, but you just want to make sure that the thing that they're actually teaching you, they're extremely proficient in. They have substantial results, and the results that they've achieved are the ones that you want to achieve. You don't want to set a ceiling. Maybe, someone sells 10K one month and you're like, oh, I'm going to go buy from that person. 10K is a lot of money. But then the next day over had sold 500,000 consistently for years, every single month. And you're like, okay, I much rather would have gone with that person. I wish I had done some more research on what the actual landscape is like in terms of finding a mentor, in terms of finding a coach, in terms of the educational landscape. Then a couple additional points. The sooner you invest in education in your journey, the better. So if I had, instead of trying to go out at my own with all the free content and making big mistakes and losing a lot of money, if I just invested in education earlier on, I would have shortcut all of that. I would have avoided all the mistakes. And now looking back, I can tell you very directly that it would would have saved me money and made me a lot of money if I had invested in education earlier. And so it might be scary, but I'm giving you permission right now. I'm giving you permission to invest in yourself, to invest in your business. The model works. If you're confident in yourself, if you're confident in your ability to make things work once you invest in them, then I suggest that you invest in yourself and take the leap. And then another thing is, the sooner that you invest in someone's educational program in its existence, the better. Why is that? Why? They're not proven yet. Assuming the person that you're purchasing the information from, that you're buying the course from, whatever the case may be, knows what they're doing, has had success, the sooner you invest in that, the better, because they're going to be able to give you a lot more attention. And so investing in some of the programs that I did, I was able to get one-on-one access with people that were wildly successful, way more successful than I was at the time. And, just starting out, I had basically failed and I was like, okay, I need assistance. And so being able to have hands-on treatment and hands-on guidance from these people, it just took my business and allowed me to explode throughout the rest of the year and until now. And it's still working. So now the second thing is, you need to source like an absolute machine. It needs to be something where it's not like a side hustle. You don't treat this as a side hustle if you get into this. It actually involves work. This isn't something that you clock into for an hour every now and then you just see results pour in. It takes consistent effort, consistent work to continuously build your catalog and to build a really robust business. So what you should not do is rely on one supplier, ignore networking opportunities, procrastinate on product research, and avoid learning about new sourcing strategies. Do not do those things. Here's what you should do instead. You want to source consistently. You need to show up every single day. I used to work in finance. And so one thing that one of the wealth managers there told me at the bank was, you show up every single day. You don't necessarily act every single day, but you at least have to look at the opportunity set and decide for yourself whether or not it's a good time to act. Show up every day, decide when to act. Show up every day, decide when to act. I think that's very important. Sometimes when you're sourcing, the opportunity set is not going to be as good as other days. So around holidays, when all these retailers are having really big sales, you're going to want to spend more money, a disproportionate amount of money. You shouldn't just say, I'm going to spend $100 every day, or I'm going to spend $1,000 every single day on products for my business. That's a losing strategy. Because if I take all the money from, let's just say, a month period, and I only spend that on the best opportunities, then I'm going to have lower buy costs than you, and I'm going to make more money than you. And so you have to show up every day, try and find things that are the best opportunities every single day, but don't necessarily press the buy button every single day. Second point, do it now, do it now, do it now. Do not procrastinate. It's the worst thing that you can do. And if you procrastinate, you fall into this loop of, I will do it tomorrow, I will do it tomorrow, I will do it tomorrow. You'll never do it in that case. You need to snap out of it. You need to do something. I fall into this loop sometimes too. And whenever I do it, I catch myself and I say, whenever I think something, I'm going to go act on it right now. And a lot of very prominent, more successful people than me, that's something that they really lean into. And they say, if you have an idea, you have to go act on it immediately. If you have an urge to do something and you're just sitting there on your phone scrolling reels, whatever the case may be, you need to take that sentiment that you have right there and you need to act on it. Because the more you ignore that urge to go do something, then the more complacent you become and the worse your result becomes. And the harder it is to then flip that switch and eventually go and achieve the things that you want to achieve. Every single day that you wake up, you should say, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it now. Next, you should network with other sellers. I do not know nearly as much as the entire Amazon selling community. And so I talked to a bunch of different business owners that are trying different things, sourcing different ways. And one cool thing about the Amazon selling community is people are relatively nice and they want you to succeed, right? It's not some sort of competitive landscape. Everyone's competing with each other, right? But Amazon's its own beast and everyone's here to do the same thing, to make money. And so networking with other sellers really just can take your existing knowledge base and your existing level where you're at and multiply it by some factor, 5x, 10x. You can just grow so much faster if you have a network of people to lean on. And then you want to diversify your business. Amazon's its own beast. If you know anything about Amazon, if you're a complete beginner, you might not know about this, but if you've been in the game for a little bit, Nike is a brand that recently got regated. So anyone that was selling Nike products got basically knocked off those listings and they have a little bit of a period to sell out of their existing inventory. But then after, I believe it's July of 2025, you can no longer sell Nike products. And so if your business was entirely selling Nike, you're going to be in a tough spot. And so I've had different periods where my catalog is disproportionately in one single brand. So I'm making a bunch of money selling one brand or another brand, and that's always in flux, right? It's always going up and down in terms of the percentage of sales attributed to any one given brand. But anytime it becomes too concentrated, your business becomes more risky because if anything happens to that brand, if you lose your supplier, if Amazon knocks you off the listing for whatever reason, then your business is gone. And so you want to diversify as much as possible, diversify the platforms that you're selling on. You should be selling on both both Walmart and Amazon, and maybe even eBay. And then also diversify the actual products that you are selling, and that is how you win. But I didn't scale to nearly $700,000 in a single month just using my own money. So let me explain how I did it. I used leverage to accelerate my growth. And so leverage is important because it allows you to use resources that you don't actually own to maximize your output. And so leverage works both ways, right? Leverage is a multiplying factor. If you're really bad at something, leverage will make you worse. If you're really good at something, leverage will make you better. And if you use it appropriately, you can just make silly amounts of money. And so if you looked ahead on the screenshots, you probably saw these absurd balances that I was carrying on my credit cards in late 2023. Just in these screenshots, I believe this is over $250,000 in credit card debt. And so most sane people would look at this and be like, I don't want to be in that fucking situation. What the hell is this guy talking about? All of this money was sitting in my Amazon balance waiting to be paid out. And so basically, I use credit cards significantly in my business. With credit cards, you can get a variety of different things. It is leverage where you don't have to pay the money back for roughly 30 to 45 days from whenever you swipe your credit card. And so what I can do is I can buy something on, let's just say January 1st, and I have until February 15th to sell it and have that money back in my bank account before I have to repay the credit card. So you can probably piece together why that's so advantageous. If you don't have cash, then you can use credit and you can basically just spawn money out of thin air. And it's not exactly that. I'm not trying to make this out to sound so easy, but conceptually, that is what's happening. I didn't have this money before. I swipe it on this imaginary card and it just spawns in my bank account. I buy the product and then I sell the product and I pay the credit card back. And so it's one of the main ways that you can use leverage. A couple others, you can take out a bank loan, you can get a line of credit, you can do a variety of different things. But leverage, I use significantly and often to really grow. And if you're sourcing at the right times, sourcing consistently, but acting only when the time is right, then leverage is like steroids for your business. Because if you're only buying at the right time and you're able to buy significantly more than your competition, then you're going to be in stock longer on the best products from the best opportunities that were available for that month per se. One other cool thing, when you use a credit card instead of using cash, you earn cash back on every single purchase. So every single dollar that I spent on either of these cards that you see in the screenshot, I was earning 2% or more back on those purchases. So $250,000, it's $5,000 in profit that just goes into my bank account that I wouldn't have had before. And the reason banks do this is they want to incentivize spending on their card. They earn a transaction fee every time you swipe their card. I believe it's 2.9% is the industry standard. And so even if they give you 2% back, they're still earning 0.9%. And when you add that up over millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of customers and billions of dollars of transactions, that's how these banks make so much money. So that's why they give you the cash back and why they're able to extend you such large credit lines to go and leverage for your business. And there's another really clever way that people use credit cards. It's called credit maximization. It's where you have two credit cards and you really cleverly kind of align the billing periods to maximize your credit even further. And I could explain it here, but it's kind of more complicated. And so I just want to mention that I've got a private Discord. And so if you go join the Discord, the link's down in the description. I help beginner sellers and also more experienced sellers that are looking to scale their stores completely free. And I talk about credit maximization there. So go check that out. It's definitely valuable. But if you use leverage and you're actually good at what you're doing, which hopefully you are, you're going to be good, speak it into existence, then you're going to be growing really fast. And there's a lot of operational stuff that comes up. And so you have to learn how to manage that. One way I did that was by bringing on a trusted partner. And so these top couple photos, this is me and one of my best friends from college. I brought him into the business and we worked together. And so what did that look like? I lived with him for a couple years. We met on the track team at UC Berkeley. We ran together. We knew each other. We trusted each other. I started the Amazon business shortly after I graduated college. He graduated just a couple years later. And so I was running the business solo for, I believe it was maybe 6 to 8 months before he joined me full time. And so what did that look like? All those things that I mentioned about networking with other sellers, I think is just, again, put on steroids if you bring a partner into your business and you guys are working together to grow the same store. Being roommates, being friends, being on the same team, I think there's a variety of awesome kind of synergies there. And so one is accountability. We kept each other accountable through and through, where if I'm working hard to grow the business and he's not, I can call him out and say, dude, what the fuck? Come on, like, let's get our asses going. We want to make this work. And similarly, if I'm slacking for whatever reason, he can look at me and be like, dude, come on, we got to get this going. So you have that accountability with a friend and with a teammate to continuously grow the business, continue to push yourselves. And when I talk about bringing on a partner to the team, people always ask me, what did the profit share look like? How do you guys pay each other, whatever? What I like to do is, in any situation where you're working with someone else, you want to make sure that the incentives are aligned. And so obviously being friends, being teammates, we wanted the best for each other, right? But we also want to align things monetarily so that both of us work more, we earn more for each other. And so what we did is basically do a profit share. And so whatever the store made, we did a percentage breakdown at the end of the month and just said, all right, this is your percentage, this is your percentage. The bigger that the total number gets, the bigger each of our percentages get. And so that's just one way in which we aligned incentives and really made things work. And then in terms of what tasks we were each doing, we're both good at different things, right? And so Shane, my partner, would focus on the things that he was the best at, and I would focus on the things that I was the best at. We both knew how to do everything. Everything in the business, we both grew accustomed with, we both knew through and through, and we were able to do it if someone was on vacation, for example, or needed to focus on other things in life. But we really focused most of our time and energy on the things that we were best at, and I would not have been able to do it without Shane, and we would not have been able to have as much success as we did without each other. Another less sort of intrusive way of bringing someone into your business is perhaps by hiring a virtual assistant. Virtual assistant's basically someone from the Philippines or another country where you can go and hire them for significantly cheaper than you can hire someone here in the United States. And because there's so much operational stuff that you have to take care of if you run an Amazon business, it's very easy to outsource those tasks to someone who you can teach with Loom videos or Screen Studio videos. You sit at your computer, you shoot a training for a task, and then from there, that person learns everything that they have to do, and you pay them, let's say, $5 an hour. And then every day they clock in, they handle those tasks, and then they're done. So it's a way where you can maintain your upside while still getting significant help in your business from someone that is competent and knows exactly what they should be doing. And then finally, but probably the most important piece of scaling any inventory-based business, which Amazon is to reinvest most of your profits. And a lot of people probably aren't going to like hearing that. You probably want to get the Rolly, you probably want to get the Ferrari, but those things can wait. Honestly, they can wait. I personally have not made any tremendously huge purchases, even though I've had so much success running this business and working and having success as a sneaker reseller while I was in college. I've taken all the money, all the profits, and I've just plowed it into more inventory. And so that just gives you so much freedom. And freedom is really the thing that I wanted to achieve when I was getting into this business. So you have to ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve, right? What is your why? And if you define your why, if your why is a Rolex and you make $30,000, go buy the Rolex. But then if your goal is, I want freedom, I don't want to work a 9 to 5, I don't want to have a boss, I want to be able to travel when I want to, I want to be able to have my money work for me, then you're not going to want to go and buy these things until you've made a significant amount of money to be able to first achieve your why. And then one thing I like to do is just understand at what point I'm at in my life, right? I'm in my mid-20s right now. And so do I really need to go and buy these super extravagant things? Or should I continue to reinvest in my business, continue to reinvest in my knowledge and my education and building up the resources that I have access to so that later in life I can go and enjoy these things? You look at the top photo, top left. That's my growth chart for the first full year I was a seller. And so this was 2023, right? And so in January, I was at $20,000 in sales. By December, that month was $635,000. So that's over 30 times growth on monthly sales in just a single year. There's no shot that I could have done this if I hadn't been plowing all the money that I was making right back into new inventory and continuing to reinvest in both inventory, knowledge, and sourcing methods to really build this thing and make it awesome. Top right photo. That's me with the car that I've had. It's the only car I've ever had. It's a 2017 Honda Accord that I drove in high school. I still drive it to this day because I care about things that are more important, in my opinion, right? Bottom left photo. That's me on a run on the beach at like noon on a Tuesday or something, right? And so that's what I care about. Time, freedom. I can do whatever I want when I want. I had some brain fog that day, right? So I take off on a run. And when I'm on that run, I clear things up. It lets me refocus. And then I can go back to work with that same ambition and that same drive that I had when I started the day. Right side, that's the Four Seasons in Kona, Hawaii. And so financial freedom, location freedom, and time freedom again. That all ties into that, right? Those are the three pillars that I sought out to achieve, and I'm still chasing. I still think there's more to achieve, there's more to do, but I was on this vacation. The same day that I took that screenshot in the top left, that's where I was. So you don't have to be bound by location, you don't have to be bound by time, you don't have to be bound by finances when you run an online business and you continue to grow it and you get it to a place where it's self-sustaining and you allow it to pay for all the things that you want to do in your life. You can see in the bottom left, updated 10:08 p.m. HST, Hawaiian Standard Time. So I'm not lying about that, right? I'm not making these things up. But again, define your why. Once you understand your why, you know what you're working towards, and then take the necessary steps that you need to take to ensure the result you want. Now guys, that was fun. I I love talking about this stuff. I'm super passionate about business, online business. It's my passion, my true passion. I love it. It excites me to no end because of what I've been able to achieve and what I've seen my friends achieve, what I've seen other people achieve that I, just met online. I think it's awesome. And so if you want extra help running your Amazon business, you're confused about anything, or you just want to come hang out, ask me questions directly, just check out that free WAP link down in the description below, and you'll be able to come and interact with me directly, interact with the community. And there's also a free course in there. So a bunch of different information on how to actually run a successful Amazon business, and you cut through the noise. You won't have to deal with any of the BS that you see on social media or that you see on YouTube that might not be accurate. I give you the real meat and potatoes. And so please come interact with me. Again, completely free. Come hang out, say what up.